and welcome to the Agricultural Engineering Podcast. This podcast covers all aspects of agricultural engineering. It is produced by the South African Institute of Agricultural Engineers. We encourage you to tune in and explore the exciting world of agricultural engineering with us. My name is Maharaj, and I'm your host for today's episode. We're excited to share this special episode with you, featuring an incredible guest who's a leading expert in agricultural engineering. However, we do want to apologize in advance for the audio quality, which is not up to our usual standards. Despite the technical challenges, we believed it was essential to share this conversation with you, as our guest's insights and wisdom are truly valuable and worth hearing. So please bear with us and let's dive into this important conversation. Hello, Professor Venter, and welcome to the South African Institute of Agricultural Engineering podcast. It's honestly a pleasure to be speaking to you today. And I know that SAIAE is an organization that you helped to found. But before we get into that, could you please provide a little bit of background about who you are, and then afterwards we can get on with the podcast?
Okay, basically, talking about myself, I grew up as a kid on a farm. Very poor conditions after the World War and like that. Only had started 4 and so on. Really, we were struggling financially. But I was able to go through university, good at school, and I was able to do that. Use a bachelor's degree in agricultural engineering, doing it on my own the first year, traveling by train to the university and back, and losing out in the first period of the subjects and so. Yeah. So it was difficult times. And further on, I started as an engineer in the Department of Agriculture doing soil conservation work. And then after 2 years, there was a vacancy at the University of Pretoria. I became a lecturer in agricultural engineering, enrolled for my master's degree, which I completed cum laude. And immediately we promoted to a senior lectureship. And then from the onwards, I immediately started with my doctorate degree, which I did there. And then I became an engineer, assistant director, in the Department of Agricultural Engineering in South Africa in Pretoria. I'll be there. This is more or less where it started.
Prof, can you tell us a little about how the Agricultural Engineering Institute, or SAIAE as we call it, has evolved over the years to become the institute that we now know and love in South Africa?
Now, during that period, while I was at the university and as earlier portion at the Division of Agricultural Engineering, that was when agricultural engineering, we as agricultural engineering, were mostly involved previously with soil conservation, and some of them were working other jobs, some of them were school teachers, some of the agricultural engineers were working for municipalities, and so on. So they had odd jobs, but nobody was really involved in a sort of an organization where we could all sort of speak what through one. So that says we as agricultural engineers at the universities decided, listen, it is time for us to really get an organization to represent agricultural engineers. So I was part of the initial meetings that we had. We tried to go forth and get accreditation. That was before HEXA. We still had ESA, Engineering Institute and so on. And I cannot even remember all those names, but we then had some meetings and we started to really fight for the institute to be formed. And initially, once we were formed, we started to get recognized by the other institutions as well. Yeah. The general idea was that we were not really engineers. We were, like in Europe, they call everybody an engineer and he's an agronomist or whatever. So he's a specialist in his field.
That is fascinating insights, Prof. But can you also tell us about some of the steps that were taken to get SAIAE recognized as an engineering body and also recognized by EXA?
We had to really convince them that look at the subjects that we are taking, and it is really mathematics and applied mathematics and those type of things and engineering principles that we are working on, not on other technologies. So eventually we were able to get recognized, and that was during the stage when EXA was formed as well. I was our representative at EXA for a couple of years.
Okay.
During the initial stages of SAIAE, we were only about 50 members. My number at EXA was number 49. So, gives you an idea. My surname is Venter, so almost at the bottom of the alphabet. We had about, if I remember, we were about 55 members, because I was actually the honorary secretary of SAIAE for the first 2 or 3 years. I did everything for them as far as the finances and administration was concerned, free of charge, just as, being part of the story. And from there, it is amazing to see where agricultural engineering, where the institute is standing today with international recognition. We, from the start, were involved with the American Society as well, with the SAIAE, and some of the organizations in Europe, but this was just on a sort of a loose basis. We were in contact, and we attended some of the, individually attended some of their functions and symposia and so on over the years.
Yeah.
Okay, from my side, if you need any more information, I can give you more information about my personal background and what I've done as an agriculture.
Yeah, I think definitely to create some perspective, SAIAE is obviously celebrating their 60th anniversary, and you were there at the inception of SAIAE. So just for the audience to get some perspective and maybe a time scale, if you don't mind sharing your age with the audience, that will be really good. And I think from my side, I can say with certainty that you're the most experienced agricultural engineer that I've ever met or spoken to. So before we get into the work that you've done for the industry, it'll be good to get your perspective and also give some perspective to the audience so that they can understand the wisdom that you come with.
Okay, within the next 4 or 5 months, I will be 90 years old.
Wow.
That's what they call a nanogeneria.
Yeah.
At the moment, I'm still octogeneria, somebody in the 80s. So, yes, I'm old. Luckily, my brain is still ticking over quite nicely, so I've not any problems remembering themes of dates and so on. Some gifts that may fade away due to non-use and so on. Thinking back about those earlier days, if you look at the photos which I've just been looking at during this symposium that I attended with you this week, and looking at the photos, all the guys on those photos are not with us anymore.
Yeah.
And the only surviving individual who was really involved with the initial stages of SAIAE, the organizing of meetings before and right from the start. I was a member of the board for a couple of years while I was with the Department of Agriculture, but when I moved out into the private sector, I had to resign as secretary because I wouldn't have the time to keep on with that. So this gives you a bit of a background. What I did as an agricultural engineer, I started in soil conservation.
Yeah.
I was still, that was before my marriage with my wife, of course. And so I was the only young engineer who wasn't married. So at that stage, James Mattia was actually the senior engineer. The engineer in charge of us was Mr. Pazzi, P-A-Z-Z-I, Mr. Pazzi, a German engineer who actually qualified as an agricultural engineer in Germany, as far as I can remember. Many of these names today, people don't know about it.
Yeah.
Before that, the head of the Department of Agricultural Engineering was Professor Van Tomle. And ag engineering was actually initially started under the Department of Surveyors, land surveyors. They actually was asked by the Department of Agriculture to start an agricultural engineering division. And the main driving force at that stage was for soil conservation. Okay, so I started in soil conservation, then I took a post as lecturer and senior lecturer at the University of Pretoria, during that period, I don't know how I did it, but I was able to give classes, prepare myself properly for the classes, know what I'm talking about. At the same time, enrolling for a whole series of postgraduate courses in other engineering departments, like in metallurgy, civil engineering. I had a very heavy mathematical course that I took there, and even electronics and electrical engineering as well, in the other engineering divisions. That was just when the engineering division was started at the University of Pretoria. My first degree was in the Department of Agriculture.
Okay.
Faculty of Agriculture. Okay, if I look back at my experiences from there, I then became the assistant director in the Division of Agricultural Engineering at the Department of Agricultural Technical Services in Silverton in Pretoria with the Harvey Brevet. I stayed there from 1966 to 1970, when I decided my chances for promotion is a little bit difficult due to my age and just 2 or 3 years younger than Harvey.
Yeah.
And I'll have to wait until he retires before I can get promotion, so I moved out. I then took up a job as a director of the research division of FETSA in Bothaville.
Okay.
So I moved to Bothaville. I really enjoyed designing new implements and so on, because I did a master's degree on vibration and vibratory implements and so on, a lot of heavy mathematics and things involved there.
I can imagine it must have been really difficult. So for all the maths and science enthusiasts, can you please talk us through some of the design work that you have done?
I was very well trained in mechanisation at that stage, so I was able to design plows and all kinds of implements within a couple of days. But I was also looking more forward than what the sales people were doing. So we always were sort of not arguing, but we had different views of which directions to take. They asked me to design new sets of implements for tractors of 40, 45 horsepower at that stage, which all the farmers had those types of tractors. I mean, most of the farmers in Bothaville and Viljoenskroon in those areas, the ploughing areas, Lichtenburg and so on, the big farmers had 60, 70 tractors on a farm, 60, 70 drivers. And they were all working with trade combines, the Slattery combine and the LM combine, that can take one row of beelies at a time. So as far as mechanisation, this is the worst scenario that you ever think about. FETSAP actually propagated a system that allowed him to sell more tractors by looking at what they called the Minimaxi, which was a ripper combined with a plow, a single plow, and a planter behind.
Okay.
Now, if you do that from an engineering point of view, the planter can run at 12, 14 kilometers per hour. Planters are able to do that. Ripping is a heavy draft operation, which you do at 2 or 3 kilometers per hour, and plowing is somewhere in between. What now happens is that in planting time, you need many tractors to be able to pull a planter at the speed of a ripper.
Yeah.
And that is what really killed our story. Okay, so I became a little bit frustrated looking at small implements. I wanted to build larger implements. So I went to John Deere, or they contacted me actually, because they wanted to have a dealership started in Bothaville, where the competition was very stiff.
Okay.
Because all the other tractor companies were there, and FETSAP had a main factory there, and I was would have been competing against Fiat, Ford, Massey Ferguson, the whole lot.
Okay, thanks for that, Prof. But I just wanted to clarify something with respect to history. So prior to your involvement with John Deere, was there no John Deere in South Africa?
No, John Deere was very well represented in South Africa, but they were not in Bothaville.
Okay.
There were a couple of farmers there. They had John Deere tractors, but they had to go to Dragsdorp or Lichtenburg for services and so those types of things.
Okay.
And they already at that stage had 3 dealerships in Bothaville that couldn't cope with the competition. They just went down the drain. But then John Deere told me that they want me to start. They knew me at that stage as a good designer and somewhat knowledgeable in the mechanisation field. I said, well, they want me to start with it. I said, listen, as a guy who's drawing a salary, there's no way that I can buy tractors and put them on the floor and start selling them.
Yeah.
They said, no, they've got a consignment system, which is quite easy. They put the tractors on my floor and don't worry about it. But if I sell it, I have to pay for it.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to put up my own capital to start with. Make a long story short, 4 years after starting up from scratch without any capital, with a 10,000 rand overdraft, I was the second largest private John Deere dealer in South Africa.
Wow.
The largest one was the guys in Rustenburg, Ferrara Brothers. I was able to switch over from this mechanization story with small tractors to coming with big tractors.
Okay.
First big deal that I did was with a guy by the name of Pete Stein, a young guy. He came to me and said, he cannot really, he's working on 2,000 hectares and he's not making a profit. And if I can help him, because he thinks his mechanization cost is killing him. So I looked at this mechanization. That guy had 73 tractors and he had 26 combines on his farm, doing 2,000 hectares. And I looked at the whole thing and I started to do mechanization planning, because with my research in my doctorate degree, I knew exactly what energy is going into the soil to till the soil.
Yeah.
And I realized, gee, this guy has got so many implements and the whole system is wrong. What he should be doing is prepare the soil in advance, and during planting time he's just going in the plant, as he could do it with much less kilowatts.
Yeah.
So I switched 72 tractors for 45 kilowatt roughly. We got rid of them and I replaced them with 3 big John Deeres.
Okay.
In total, about 600 kilowatt.
Yeah.
And they were able to do the job. But we started to rip directly off the cars and we just had a very well mechanization planning system.
Yeah, it's good to know that you had some time in academia. You obviously obtained your PhD and now you're a professor. But during that time, you've obviously worked in soil conservation and mechanization and a whole range of other fields. And I know you mentioned previously that you have some experience in the real estate sector. I'm just keen to learn how an agricultural engineer could have ended up in the luxury housing market. And then I also know that you've been working a bit with greenhouses and you wrote a set of books on greenhouse design. So can you please enlighten us about that? I think it will be really great for the audience to hear about those two facets of your life.
Okay, coming back to Waterville, I was so successful that the co-ops locally were selling less tractors than I was selling, and they were selling 45 kilowatts and I was selling 300 kilowatts. The interesting thing there, the first 300 kilowatt tractor that came into South Africa, I had to assemble it on the train. It came in boxes.
Yeah.
I had to assemble it on the train and drive it off Renampi, the demonstration there.
Yeah.
And I had to connect 2 plows, a 5-furrow and a 7-plow, to get a 12-furrow plow, which is the size of the tractor. And that helped me with the sucks. Okay, coming back to that, the co-op thing started to contact me. They wanted to buy my business. And after 3 years, the price was right and I let go.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't have done maybe.
Yeah.
So then I went into a period where I was involved with industrial burners, and I was also burning my luxury houses in Pretoria in that period. The luxury house story at one stage became a really difficult story, because interest rates at the banks all of a sudden went up to a prime rate of 25%. Sure.
So, Prof, did you fund all of these projects in your personal capacity? And yeah, it's quite interesting how the interest rates affected your endeavors in the past.
Yeah, initially, I used my own funds to build houses, and I had 3 luxury homes in Waterkloof, Richie, Pretoria that I built.
Yeah.
But with the interest rates going up like that, there were no ways. So I couldn't get rid of them. The one I exchanged and so on, but your cash flow becomes a problem, so I had to borrow from the banks. And then with those interest rates, things really went bad for me. So I had to really do something else. So then I took up industrial burners with my brother, and we started designing there. We installed the bin burner at shop in Gondwana, near Nelspruit. Very fancy burning. I don't want to give too much detail, but it was a burner that was giving out at full capacity. It was doing 9 gigawatt energy, which was probably that rotary kiln.
Yeah.
They're burning pulverized coal at the rate of 26 train truckloads per day. It's running at full capacity. So that was a very nice system to be in, and we are actually working with the mining industry, with calcining and so on as well. But then my brother and myself, we had a little bit of a difference. So I plugged out there, and then I became head of the Department of Agricultural Engineering at Pretoria when the professorship became available. Okay. So I was, for 8 years, was a chair of the Department of Agricultural Engineering. I retired at the age of 60, and then I didn't have much to do, so I really started to play around with things like the hydroponics and greenhouse as a hobby. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I realized, listen, this is quite an interesting field for the agricultural engineering, because you actually work with all facets of engineering as far as that's concerned. You've got the structural side of it, where you need to design a structure that could withstand wind speeds and all that type of things, that it could carry a load of plants hanging from the structure. So you've got the structural design of it. On top of that, you've got irrigation, where you've got the hydraulic side of it, of ag engineering being applied. You've got climate control. You just look at plants, requirements for plant growth. You get my 5 fingers and I can tell you it's water, air, light, climate, and nutrients.
I really like how you've summarized climate control so simply and eloquently. Can you elaborate on how energy is so important to food production when thinking about greenhouse design?
So all facets of ag engineering is involved. The climate control, heating, cooling, irrigation, hydraulics, structural design, everything, even some of the mechanization as well, the materials handling and all those types of things. Yeah. This developed into a system where I trained agricultural technologists that are interested in hydroponics and greenhouses. I started training courses, and I was running training courses on a monthly basis right through South Africa from 1989 to about 1995, when some other people came in and the competition became stiff and I let go of. I also started to design greenhouses. I did a lot, probably 30, the best part of 30, business planning for people who were doing this. So I was really a specialist in that field. I still am. So right at this stage, I'm still doing consulting work, even though my eyesight isn't what it should be anymore. I've got difficulty reading and so on. Yeah. But with the modern technology, I get by. Yeah, it's much slower than it was in the past.
Yeah, Prof, you've really inspired me, and it's inspirational just hearing you speak. And my key takeaways from this are that you are definitely a hard worker, just based on your background on the farm, to having to take a train to campus and then get your degree with a cum laude pass, despite all those challenges. You definitely are someone that aims very high, and you're not scared of diversifying and not scared of change. And yeah, you didn't stick to one particular field. And I think just on that note, maybe one last thing that we can ask from you is if you could provide some advice to young engineers or young agricultural engineers on how we could get some longevity in the field and be a bit like you if we can.
Well, if I look back over my life and the successes that I had, it's normal road that anybody have. You've got your successes, but you've got your knocks as well, which I told you about when I went to building those houses. Yes. But I think the big thing is you need to have the driving force, something in you must tell you to go forward. Doesn't matter what the conditions are, how difficult they are. Yeah. And if you've got that driving force in you, it will take you very far. The other thing is not to shy away from a project if you think this is not really in line with ag engineering. Ag engineering puts you in a position where I went into industrial buildings. I went into the building industry. Yeah. And, so and in the meantime, my agricultural engineering background was actually pushing me through that with ease. So the big thing is you should see your training as a broad-based training. Yes. And okay, you can say, okay, you're a jack of all trades. They always said master of none. That's nonsense. An agricultural engineer is a jack of all trades, but he's a master of a hell of a lot of disciplines that he can apply. And if you just realize that, use that knowledge. If you've got any chances of improving and working in a wider field, go for it. You've got the potential to do it. And the big thing is never stop learning. Like, I can give you an idea. I'm at the moment not in an old age home, but in a sort of a retirement village.
Yeah.
And many of the people there are much younger than I am. 10, 15, 20 years younger than I am. And I cannot have a conversation with them at the level where they can talk with me when it comes to computers and new technology. So they haven't got a clue.
Yeah.
I am I'm lucky I was using computers in 1966 already, when you still had to sort of have a special typewriter to type holes into the little card, and you've got the card readers and so on. You couldn't communicate. There wasn't even a monitor on computer.
Yeah.
But I stayed with all the new developments. I'm spot on even today with artificial intelligence. 2 days after it became available on the internet, I was using.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of nonsense sometimes being bandied around about the dangers of artificial intelligence and everything. Every motor vehicle is a dangerous vehicle if you use it wrongly.
Yes, you are correct about that, Prof. And your wisdom does come through in that answer. You know, we all have to be aware of what is out there, how to use it, and also acknowledge the limitations, but not be scared or panicked about the benefits of these different and new technology, even if it may be new to us.
Exactly. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't use it. Yeah. And the potential for this is so vast that we have to keep in touch with industry developments, economic developments, and political developments. Yeah. They all can change your life in a tremendous way. But as an agricultural engineer, you never look back. You just go forward.
Yeah. That's truly profound, Prof. And again, I agree with you. And I'm sure everyone listening to this is going to gain a lot of inspiration from you and the advice that you gave. I'm sure you're not going to stop publishing books, papers, and research outputs. And I know I have a little bit of inside information, so I know that you're going to be writing a book about your life, and I'm definitely keen to read that. And yeah, looking forward to learning more or reading more about your life. And I'd just like to thank you for joining us today, Prof. It has really been an honor speaking to you.
I can just mention that people ask me, how is it possible that you cannot read anymore? Because this macular degeneration of my eyes doesn't allow me I cannot focus here. Yeah. But I got the circumcision, but I can quite easily see on the outside edges of my eyes, so I'm not blind, I can walk around. But I cannot, on my computer, quite honestly, and I've got a big screen. Yeah. And I cannot read it properly, except with a magnifying glass, because the letters are burnt, it's sort of blurred. So what I've done is just get the computer to talk to me and tell me what emails are coming through. They read the email to me, and then I respond by typing into the computer, and the computer then puts it on the screen, and I said, I'll read what's on the screen because I cannot read it myself. Yeah, you read it back to me, and I see how can that make sense, and then I send it out. Yeah. And at the moment with a book, I'm doing exactly the same. Yeah, dictating it.
That's really cool, Prof, that you embrace new technology and you actually are using it. But are there any other interesting tools that you are using to help you write this book of yours?
Right at the start, I said, artificial intelligence, I want to write a book on my life. Blah, 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 blah. This is what I want in it. Yeah. Give me a breakdown. 8 seconds later, they give me a printout with a foreword that I can always use just as it is. A breakdown of 10 chapters that makes sense. And every chapter, they tell me what I should put in that chapter. Now, it's so easy. I just think about a certain stage of my life, and I started thinking that that's chapter number 7. Yeah. It's a piece of cake. Yeah. And then, of course, I also know some software programs on the computer which I'm using, so I just take what I dictate, which may be long sentences, difficult to understand. I put it through a software program, Hemingway editor, and he tells me in red lines that thing is difficult to read, change it, make the sentences shorter, make the paragraph shorter. And I can see for somebody to read it, he needs to have a tertiary training of 4 years. And it will come down to stand 6 after my entries.
It's truly impressive that you can use technology at the age of 89 and a half, even today, and you have embraced technology so nicely. So yeah, it's just, again, a testament to the type of person that you are. You definitely don't let anything stand in your way. Thank you so much. And I'm sure it must be really good for you to see what you've built at SAIAE after 60 years. So yeah, thanks again, Prof, and all the best with writing your book.
It's a pleasure, and all the best for the Institute of Engineering. I was so glad that I could attend this meeting or the symposium. It was really cherry on the cake.
As we wrap up that episode with Prof. Venter, I have to admit it was a surreal experience for me meeting someone with that much wisdom. And I'm sure you all have enjoyed the podcast, but please keep an eye out for our next episode. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the podcast with your friends. You can find the SAIAE podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts.